But we're going to move on to the next section, which is the mini bosses and other dungeons. And this also is going to bring me to a negative point. Initially,
There's goods, but there's more negatives than goods. Well, in my opinion, there's more negatives.
yeah. Well, this is my first negative point. When you first start exploring the world and you come across these dungeons, you feel a sense of accomplishment and exploration, and because you come across some of the bosses in the first initial areas are unique. But then once you start progressing the game and start going to areas, you start seeing the problem. The bosses are used too many times. Like for one boss you come across in Limgrave, there's probably 8 more of them or more. And that's to me ridiculous and a little bit lazy to me, because to me, I mean, I can understand a little bit of it. Like you don't trying to design individual bosses for each one of these dungeons would be it would take a lot of time to design the character, to design the look of the boss, and then the move set. But I feel like these mini dungeons were kind of like, let's just get it done.
It was.
Yeah. I lost excitement for it because like I just wanted I wanted to.
What I found most bullshit about the dungeons, it's they reuse bosses and stuff, then the double teamed the same bosses what they've just reused as well, which sort of pissed us off as well. They all look the same, like candles on the walls and it's white, and all look the same. The only part, the only building that didn't look the same is
I
the
watched.
tools.
And I watched the beta test, and everyone was applauding how unique these dungeons feel and how challenging they were. But at the end of the day, after a while, you're just like, whatever. You lose your sense of excitement for those dungeons. They just become a chore because you've already done the dungeon. Because to me, they started feeling like the challenge dungeons from Bloodborne. But even the challenge dungeons on Bloodborne, you still had to do a lot of work. But in Elden Ring, these, excuse me, all the dungeons started, like I said, started to feel the same because you had to fight the same type of boss over and over. I can only list a handful of dungeons that had unique bosses. That's why I stopped showing them. Like I just started exploring them so you guys didn't have to see me fight the same boss for the 18th time. The only unique...
the most used boss I would say was that lion one, the skinny ninja lion thing.
That wasn't a boss though.
You fight them on the beach.
The beach.
You fight them on the beach. There's water. The squids before you enter the dungeon room. This isn't in a dungeon. It's like on the beach.
Are you talking about the lions that have like the blades on their legs?
Not the fat lions. I'm on about the skinny ones. They look like evil monsters.
Are you talking about the beastmen?
I think so. The skinny and the jump around a lot.
Yeah, those are beastmen.
Aye, well,
they are overused. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I can only think of a handful of bosses that were unique, and then later on you fight them multiple times.
There's the cat bosses you fight multiple times.
The only difference is crystal sentinels. Then there was the falling star beast.
The bears. There's about 5.
Those weren't bosses. Those were just ridiculously armored enemies.
Yeah, to me, they're still the mini bosses. Like they've got massive health pools, so.
Well, mini bosses don't respond. I sat there and died repeatedly to these things and killed one, and then I rested at a bonfire and it comes back. I would rather the big ones that did not come back.
Ryan, did you fight the Black Assassin in the dungeon
I did.
where he turns invisible? You have to follow the puddles.
I did.
I really enjoyed that fight.
Those are the
enjoyed it.
unique ones, though. The Black Assassins, the human enemy, the human bosses in there were, to me, one of the most unique enemies out there.
There was a sorcerer you fought in that same place because there was two bosses in one dungeon separated. There was one boss who was fucking Patches, even though he shouldn't have been in the game anyway. That's because he's stupid. That was
I killed him because I'm like, why not?
I bought the stuff and then killed him. I bought all his stuff and then killed him.
I killed him, then bought all of his stuff. Because it's Patches, and they're just probably trying to have some like homage to some of the other games like Dark Souls.
I bet all the veteran Dark Souls when they came across them, they're like, it's Patches, let's kill him.
Well, you think about it, Patches has been in pretty much every single Dark Souls game in some form or another.
He's never been. Was he in Bloodborne? He wasn't.
Yes, he was. He was a spider. If you go to the lecture building, there will be a spider with a head on it, and you listen to him. It's Patches. He doesn't sell you anything, but it's Patches.
I can't remember that. I don't think I don't know if I.
Look it up on YouTube. Look it up on YouTube. You'll see what I mean.
He wasn't in Sekiro. Definitely wasn't.
No, that would probably be the only game I'd say is that he was not in. But then again, Sekiro was like completely separate from like the Souls universe.
I hope they do make a second one of Sekiro. They have to because he travels west. Anyway, that's a different game.
Yeah, that's we're getting off topic. But I can only think of a handful of like mini dungeons.
There's one more bullshit about the dungeons. Keystone swords, keystone keys. You have to use them for some dungeons, which was absolute bullshit.
I would agree with that. Like, I would much rather the stone keys be more used towards like getting like legendary loot, like armor or a weapon or something like that, versus it being a key to a dungeon, which would lead to just either a mine or
a shitty talisman.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going for all the talismans, but then that's a different story entirely.
It's all I've got left at the platinum, but I can't be asked because the dungeons are
actually that one doesn't take long. There's actually not that many. All you have to find is legendary talismans. You don't need every single talisman, just the legendary ones. It doesn't. I still
can't be bothered.
But at the end of the game, like end of the not game, but at the end of the mini dungeons, I'm just gonna call them that. The rewards are kind of minimal. If you think about it, like you get like an ash remains for most of them. And as much as I would like to have more summoning spirits, I kind of would like to have gear as well. You know, I'm not trying to say I'm greedy, but
I think in this game, they focused more on Ashes of War and talismans, aka rings, more than gear. And that's
I would agree with that, because the Vagabond armor is not bad, but I was like, I don't want to look like this for my whole playthrough. Where do I start getting more game?
From the beginning of the game, like the next decent armor is like fucking a quarter into the game.
Yeah,
that's a pretty long time for this game as well. You're talking about the quarter of the game. You're looking at fucking 20 hours.
I wouldn't mind like after I beat Godric, I wouldn't mind buying his gear and running around looking like Godric for a while. But I ended up playing as the Vagabond for almost like half the game until I started finding other gear, and it was not because I was looking at the dungeons for the most part. The only way, like only dungeon I ever got gear in was when I fought the Crucible Knights.
And the
Which
idols I enjoyed. I really enjoyed them, especially the assassin and the idol. He was the hardest in my opinion.
are you talking about the cats?
No, no, the idols. The circle things where you enter different oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you enter the idol, you touch the thing, you get transported to a different land.
Oh, yeah.
You face the
I,
Crucible Knight in one of them.
are you talking about the teleporters, or are you talking about the chest that teleports you?
No, no, the idols. The the way you face the Crucible Knight, you have to go to the circle and then stand
Oh,
in the
you're
circle.
you're talking about the Evergraves or the Everjails.
Aye, well, them idols, whatever they are, yeah, the hardest.
I loved
All
it.
them bosses. I think there's 8 altogether, or 9.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like 8.
I
Um,
think every single boss was actually different.
oh
They
yeah.
reused the assassin from the other dungeon, but except from the buffed him a bit and made him look different. Plus, you
Well,
get
the
his armor set
assassin
as
from the
well.
dungeon, it was I think it was a Black Blade, which goes into the game's story.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because they assassinated the. I know.
but
They assassinated Godfrey and stuff.
not Godfrey. It was Godwin.
No, no, it wasn't just Godwin. It was all the one who protected the lords and shit. Um, but the Elden Lord is 2 people. Basically, the one Godfrey fell in love with is the woman, but them had kids. Godfrey and the woman had kids, and the kids are Godric, and Melina and Radon,
Hmm.
and after when she found out she'd merge with this lord and have kids on her own, like, because she's male and female, she
I thought she sent Godfrey away. I didn't think she
no,
murdered him.
no, she didn't murder him. Just like it was Ranny what executed them all with the black blades. It was Ranny.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yep.
Okay, so we talked about the mini bosses. We talked about the graphics. Combat's. I'm not really going to comment on the combat because I mean, unless this is your first Souls game.
The only thing different between the old styles Dark Souls and this combat, it feels a bit more fluid because obviously the old Dark Souls was a bit stiff in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the only. I would agree with that.
Uh,
Because if you try dually wielding and like the first Dark Souls,
and the
it's
main
really
mechanic
hard to do.
and the main mechanic in this game, what you can't do in any of the Dark Souls, is jump. You can jump in this game.
Even though the jump gun looks funny,
Yeah.
there's so many times I've used jump and I'm like, okay, and it's like I smack. You ever seen like one of those cartoons where the you know what? We'll use the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. The Wile E. Coyote will run up against a wall and goes, and that's
You
what your
mean
character looks like.
yeah, well, there's 2 different types of parries. You can have a normal parry, then you basically get like a backstab or a front stab off,
I
or
gotta
you can do a
practice the
second.
parries with this one because I didn't really get like the timing down too well on the parries, and I really didn't use a shield
And
on this playthrough.
and the second type of parry is where the enemy hits you, then you use the enemy's power to hit them back with their power. So
I
then
did do
that's
that a
even
couple of
harder.
times. I just couldn't master that.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, the combat was really nice. I really did enjoy it. Especially, with me coming as a Souls player, from Dark Souls and further. I mean, I'm not including Sekiro in the combat system because I think if there was a Sekiro combat system in this game, I think people would have lost their shit.
Posture.
Uh, yep.
Yeah, if it was posture damage, um, Fatal would be frustrated even
hmm
more.
Um, so the only other one of the other
Oh, you missed
negative.
one main boss out,
I
Ryan.
did. I did.
Well, you've missed actually you've missed three.
I did.
Yep, you missed the twin, the duo, the one in the church, the fatty and the ski one. That's classed as a main boss. Um, the Elden Lord and the Elden Beast, and you
Well, I
haven't really.
wasn't. I wasn't gonna talk about the end bosses, but yeah. Um,
Oh
well,
well,
I
if you want
can.
to leave that until the end, just leave that till
No,
the end
no,
then.
we'll talk about it now. It's fine. The Elden Beast. I actually. Well, you brought up a topic. I'll let you talk about that because. Um, but as
What do
far
you want
as
me?
like,
Do you want, well, you talk first, and then I'll
mhm.
share my 2 cents as you say it.
When I found that actually the Elden Beast relatively easy. Um,
I
like I
agree.
would I in my opinion, the weapon's pretty overpowered. I used the blasphemous blade, and that thing is really overpowered. Um, like I maxed it out, and like you guys, if you guys watched the stream, you guys saw me take it to Godfrey with my mimic tier. It's just insane. Um, that and I used it on Radon, not Radon, Radigan. Sorry. Um, and I pretty much went right through that phase and went straight to the Elden Beast. I think I died once, maybe, but I pretty much used the Rivers of Blood. The the Rivers of Blood, and the only thing about the boss fight is he just goes further away, which causes you have to constantly run towards him, which is annoying. Like I wish I had the ability of the Flash at that point. Like that way, I don't have to run nearly as far, or teleportation. But his move sets are really easy. Like even when he brings down something like a ring towards you, the ring that if you don't jump out of it, it will just keep on damaging you. The only like most devastating attack he has, which is easy to dodge because he's a dragon. If you fought dragons, you should already know how to deal with this. Is when he does his like energy breath, and I think he makes like a pillars that come down and something like that. Then he has his sword swiping attacks, but if you stick close to him, like underneath him, he's not going to be able to hit you. And I just pretty much caused bleed on him the whole fight long with my mimic tier. I'm going to hand it over to Don because there is a unique point of view he brought to my attention, and I did do a cross reference on it, and it does look very similar, and I will agree with him on this point. Take it away.
Basically, what Ryan's talking about is the Elden Beast is actually been reskinned from Sekiro. The what do we call the dragon again? I think it's called. No, it's not the Elden Dragon.
No,
What's it called?
the
It's
ancient
the last part.
ancient dragon.
It's
I
something like
think.
that, but I think it's the only dragon you fight in the game basically. But he's near the end of the game of Sekiro. Basically, he's been reskinned, and Miyazaki actually touched upon he used some of the move sets as well from that dragon. The sword swipes that are exactly the same as what it is in Elden Ring.
I would agree,
The
and I
reason
do
that
agree with that because I watched the video for comparison. I watched the Elden Beast compares the boss fight, and there are very shocking similarities to
and
those
if
two
you notice
fights.
the sword is exactly the same. It's just it's brighter and it's been recolored. which I found
That is
what.
that's different
But
because the sword is it. I would say the length. I'll give you the length on that, but the swords are not exactly the same. If you look at the dragon on Elden on Sekiro, it looks like a kind of like a fire going up the
but I,
blade,
but this is
whereas as
my
this
point
one looks
is
different.
I think that the devs started to run out of ideas. I think they really did with the final boss. What they should have done was that the first phase was fucking brilliant. I thought, I think the first phase was harder than the second phase, in my opinion. What they should have done is just made him like fucking Super Saiyan, basically, for his second phase. That would have been, or even, because the Elden Lord is actually two people.
I
It's
have
a
an
woman and
idea.
a man.
I have an idea.
What could have happened is them two could have split for the second phase. Then you fight two of them.
That was my idea.
That would that would have been fucking
Where you
brilliant
had to
and just
fight
like
both
buffed
Radon
them.
and Melina.
Well, sort of,
Queen
but I
Malika.
forgot what. Yeah, Marika and the Elden Lord. Um, them two. What should have happened was them two should have split and they should have like looked more insane and evil. That would have been better. But you fight the fucking stupid beast, what jumps underneath invisible water and uh, keep it keeps swimming away from you and stuff.
I
It's
will say this though, I did like the design of the dragon though, where it had like all like the nebula and lightning kind of within it, and to me that I did appreciate that design. But as far as like the move set being very similar to what it looked like on Sekiro, I was not happy with that. Once Dom pointed that out to me, I looked at it again and I'm like, no, that's they could have done something much better with that. Um, like I would have much rather, after hearing and doing my own research on that, I would have preferred fighting Ratigan again versus fighting the
yeah.
dragon. To be honest, um, and there are some mechanics in the game I'm not exactly 100% happy with. Like for instance, summoning. I do not like the fact that you have to use these fingers to see people's summon signs.
Yeah, I thought that
Eh,
was fucking stupid.
I mean, I understand, like, to a degree of what they were trying to do. That we were getting rid of, like, traditionally you'd have to consume a
The fingers would
humanity.
have been better. The fingers would have been better used if the fingers were used to summon people, not to see the summon signs, but to be used to summon. If you get what I mean,
Yeah,
like
where it's
not
like
to see the
replacing
see.
the
You,
humanities.
yeah, instead you can say every summon sign. But basically, if you want to summon someone, it'll cost you one finger remedy. That's what it should have been done as. Not you can see them. That's just
But
stupid.
actually be able to see them, because me and Dom didn't figure that out initially. Like, why can't we see each other? Why can't we see you? Why can't we see you? And then he like, oh, we need to use these fingers because we're just sitting there messing with our settings, trying to figure out what's going on. We're thinking it's our fault, but no, it's because we weren't using the fingers. And I think they should be like, I don't think they should be a finite source, like
And
for
that's another thing.
merchants.
If you
I
use a password for your if you and your friend wants to co-op and if you use a password, I think you should be able to say to the summon sign for free.
I agree
If
with
you're
that.
using this, I think it's just my opinion. It's easy to craft.
No,
They're
I
easy to
agree with
craft,
that. I agree with that.
but the remedies are easy to craft. You can find loads of the flowers just the first church you come to. you can
Yeah,
find
I mean,
it's
you
just
can.
it's not the point.
I mean,
It,
I found a video. I'm like, okay, I need tons of these because I need to make a ton of these finger remedies. And there's essentially one that actually respawns consistently every single time you go
Yeah,
to a
the
grace
respawn. That's right. The
at the
first
beginning.
church where the tree sentinel is. So as you come out
Hmm.
that